Hello, my name's Ryan Thomas and this is my A-level media evaluation for my opening slash movie a year ago that day. In what way does your media product use, develop or challenge forms and conventions of real media products? Our media production was based on a modern slasher. Modern films or episodes do not usually follow the stereotypical conventions of a slasher movie, but instead try to create new ones to fit the modern day society. For example, we had very loud, fast tempo music with snares and guitars at the start. This was our own created song on GarageBand and we believed that it fit the mood more appropriately than slow ominous chords. We also base our characters on those that live in modern society. For example, our teenagers wear stereotypical clothes which consist of jeans, hoodies and commonly worn brands. Lastly, the location is set in a house. It isn't dark, eerie or reinforced with cobwebs, but instead looks like an ordinary house with casual features. The whole reason behind choosing a modern slasher genre was because we felt that considering our target audience was teenagers to young adults, we found it best to endorse them into our film and put them in the feet of the victims. This creates more tension than any other slasher and allows the viewer to feel fear and more empathy. How does your media product represent particular social groups? There were a few particular social groups we were representing in our movie. For example, the stereotypical blonde victim who was scared for her life, running from an imminent death. On the other hand, we have a male antagonist who is attempting to kill the girl for what she did to his daughter. On the way, he also slaughters another victim who happens to be a fearless man. This shows the pure empowerment of the killer, giving more of a sense of realism, fear and horror. These particular stereotypes also promote marginalisation towards women, displaying a patriarchal society. Lastly, our main social group was the victims. They were based on antisocial teenagers which roam the streets in hoodies causing havoc to society, also stereotypically known as chavs. We use this idea to base our victims on. What kind of media institution might distribute your media product and why? From research, I discovered that there are a few smaller independent distributors for slasher genres, such as USA Films or Troma Entertainment. On the contrary, I believed it would be better to use a well-known name that occurs in most high-budgeted award-winning slasher films, such as New Line Cinema. They have distributed many slasher genre films such as the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Friday the 13th, A Nightmare on Elm Street and Final Destination. Just like our film, they aged their movie from teenagers to 30-year-olds. Who would be the audience for your media product?
My audience for my media product would be teenagers aged between 16 to 25. This is because most common age for the slasher genre is and its audience. When doing a questionnaire, we found our own evidence of its being proved, as well as secondary research on target audiences. Not only for this reason, but because teenagers can relate to the situation of maybe being influenced by their friends to do something they don't want to do, which in this case is killing a young girl. Therefore, we use teenage actors that the audience can familiarise with them. Both male and female will view a slasher. This is because most teenagers go with their boyfriends or girlfriends together to feel a sense of achievement. How did you attract or address your audience? We attracted our teenage to young adult audience for our slasher genre movie by using specific techniques. As said before, we use actors aged roughly at the same age as our audience, which means we can relate to them and they can feel what they are feeling. Furthermore, we have made our storyline so that it revolves around teenagers and some of their daily lifestyles. Due to the peer pressure that happens to some group of friends, we based our story on a young girl that gets killed by a group of antisocial teenagers who are peer pressured into doing it. This happens in real life and therefore makes it more terrifying as you can position yourself in their shoes and understand that it could happen to anyone. It is also a subtle message for anyone who has done something so terrible that they would be killed afterwards. What have you learnt about technologies from the process of constructing this product? When creating the film, the main technology we learnt to use, were the cameras. When attempting to try different shots, they may require much more difficult than normal. We had to get used to what the camera was capable of. I now know how to make a range of shots using zoom, panning, bird's eye view shots, focus, general positioning and much more. The next technology that we got to grips with was iMovie. This entitled us to create our own entire slasher opening with new editing such as effects, transitions, cutting, video clips, changing contrast to make it look darker, and many other additions. Lastly, we used GarageBand. This program enabled us to create our own song using our own instruments. We played together with our own beats in different forms to create fast-paced tempo tune that we could use in the intro of our movie. Looking back at your preliminary task, what do you feel you have learnt in the progression from it to the full product? The preliminary task was just a start-off point that allowed us to see more detail. From the match and action shot we used in our preliminary task, it helped us to learn more and develop into a better full product. We took any negatives out of the preliminary task and improved on them, so that the full product would look far better. Now for my film with a full evaluation. For the first part of the movie, we used fast-paced music created by ourselves on GarageBand. Not only did this allow us to be creative, but also put up our marks higher. We used fast dramatic music to exaggerate the speed that the character was walking at, displaying a sense of aggression. Secondly, for our title, we creatively made our title to fit onto a newspaper. We did this by creating two of our own A3 pieces of paper and gluing them to an original newspaper to look like a real newspaper. The title was called A Year Ago That Day, followed by pictures of all the actors. It also informs the viewer on the storyline of how the killers murdered a man's daughter, and they have now recently been let out of prison as not guilty. On the back, it essentially shows the credits and the actor's name. However, we also added another title sequence in case the viewer didn't clearly see the original title. It is coloured stereotypically in black and red to connote darkness, blood and danger, giving off a very scary atmosphere. We firstly start off with the two victims entering the front door of the house with two different angles. This is followed closely with some dialogue of the female victim Lucy and male victim Chase discussing where their cigarettes are.
The dialogue continues for a while until Lucy walks off in a very angry state. Another camera angle is shot from a bird's eye viewpoint. For this scene, we have a camera angle from the perspective of the killer. We believe that this was our favourite shot and was used to create a lot of tension for the viewer, as they are now aware that there is something watching. We added in heavy breathing and a loud heartbeat to exaggerate it also. Chase tries to light a cigarette, displaying the stereotype of bad teenagers, but also for more dramatic tension. At this point, there is a quick sudden noise to make the audience jump, followed by darkness so the audience is unaware of what is going on. For this part, Chase is dragged away on a carpet after being brutally murdered, as you can see from the cut marks along his neck. We didn't want to show the actual killing in the movie, as it may have been too gory or too difficult to create, therefore to improvise we thought of this. As you have experienced, this scene is to make the audience jump. Followed closely by the banging sound. This is to distract Lucy and make her more aware of the situation. As she is uneasy, it also creates more tension for the viewers. During this scene, there is a very loud creaky door, accompanied by ominous chords to build up tension for the viewer. For the next part, we used a match on action shot to preview some of the effects we gained from the use of technology. This also made the scene more fast, dramatic, and look more effective. In the darkness, we created a loud screaming noise. However, it wasn't from the actual scene, we had to use Foley. We used a mobile phone at a different moment in time, got a girl to scream into it, and then placed the file onto the movie to make it look realistic. As the scene appears of Lucy running down the stairs, loud, dramatic, and fast-paced music is played. This implies that her heart is beating fast and she is running as fast as she can to get away, as she knows she is being chased for her life. The lights are turned off by the killer to create more tension. For this clip, we used the editing software called Earthquake to make the killer look more enigmatic. The fast-paced music continues. This scene was the chase. We used different shots to make it look like the long distance we had travelled seemed a short length of time. The killer is only a few steps behind, but you cannot see him, which creates more tension for the viewer as they are unaware when he will show up. As the victim falls over, it doesn't only show her marginalisation, but it scares the viewer because they know that there is more time for the killer to catch up. This puts them on edge. Here we used a point of view shot so that the viewer could feel empathy for the victim. This shot we believe was another great shot, not only because it varies the shot type as a close-up, but being the viewer, we can see the killer but the victim can't, creating even more tension and fear. A sudden stabbing noise and a quick shot to blackness allows the viewer to recognise the victim is dead without actually showing it. The prop used here was fake blood and our own created newspaper. The aim we were going for was to show that those crossed off in the victim's blood he had already killed, and those left he's going to kill. This leaves a cliffhanger and makes the viewer want to watch more. And finally, the last shot used I believe was another good shot. It allowed the viewer to preview the foot of the dead victim, nothing too gory, yet still devastating at the same time, but also the victim walking off, not able to see his face, creating more of a mysterious feel. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed my short evaluation by Ryan Thomas.